All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Friday. It's 4 o'clock Pacific. Heck, let's do some Pathfinder Friday today. Actually, at the end of last week's episode, we got someone in the chat said, hey, you should do a show on Kyonin. And we were like, oh, yeah, I think we can make that work. That might be able to be a thing. And then it kind of expanded. And then today I'm getting art from James. I'm like, James, what should we call today's show? And he said, Elves versus Demons. And so today we're doing a show called Elves versus Demons. And thank you so much for joining us, James. Welcome back to the show.
Hello!
We have...
Jeez.
Yeah, it's fine.
Surprise, wake up!
I think there's a noise gate on there, keeping it a little bit quiet. I'm not 100%
noise
sure.
gate.
And the mic is working today. Yay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. How has your Friday been?
It's pretty good.
Yeah? No complaints?
I do, but this is not the place to complain. This is a place to be happy.
It's rhetorical.
Yeah. Dan's pleasurable company.
Yay.
Yay.
So we've got some awesome art.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bury the lead here. We have a preview of a creature that is going to be in the Bestiary for Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yep.
And we're going to preview that. And then we've got some fun history on that same creature.
Yep.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing the photos or the images because they're really good.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go there. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for subscribing. Valantrix for using that.
Oh, that's the other hand.
For 2 months in a row. That's a nice streak. Thank you so much. So first of all, what does the title Elves versus Demons mean? What do we expect for today's show?
It means chaotic is the best alignment.
Well, there's that.
Whether it's good, neutral, or evil, chaotic is the part of the game that I like the best. It's the most fun, the most unpredictable. One of my little in-jokes is you can't be lawful without being awful. Lawful alignments just always kind of frustrate me and bore me and all of that. So I've always gravitated to the chaotic side of the spectrum in the game. Be that like chaotic good with elves, chaotic evil with demons, everything in between, like kind of swashbucklers and thieves and bards and all that type of stuff. So back in the early days in my homebrew, when I was like, I want to make a game to play in, this my own game. And it's really just like hodgepodge together from every other fantasy setting that I was into.
Right.
One of the things I really wanted to do was have this conflict between elves and demons. Because they were like my favorite good guys and my favorite bad guys. And so that was one of the underlying elements, is that the elves of this region got into like stuff that they shouldn't have, and they summoned up a demon, and the demon got in and took over their land and kicked them out. And that demon was Treerazer, who was this big badass, dinosaur demon, because that's even better, a demon than dinosaur demon. Anyway,
that is a great thing.
So
I would like to see one of those.
You will pretty soon. Anyway, so fast forward 15, 20 years or whatever later, I'm working at Paizo, and we're like, we need to build a setting to set our games in and all of that. And we wanted to have mostly humans, a humanocentric setting with a bunch of different, just types of humanity going on there. But we also wanted to be fantasy. We needed elves, dwarves, halflings, gnomes. For elves, I basically, as I did with a lot of this, I just pulled from my home campaign, and I brought in this nation. I think the name Selwynvian was the name of the elven nation in my homebrew, if I remember. Yeah. And so I'd already used that for a smaller nation in Varisia. So we had to come up with a new name. I think it was James Sutter who came up with Kyonin, or maybe it was me. It sounds like a name that I would come up with. That's a weird thing too, is you can't remember who did what back in those early days.
Right.
But anyway, so Kyonin is the elven nation.
Okay.
And the elves left the region at one point, traveling through these Iadara, these elf gates. They fled Earthfall to get away from it. And then they basically left their entire homeland to lie fallow, because they're like, well, that planet's getting blown up. Let's go over here.
Right.
And it didn't get blown up. And then this demon comes along and is like, these are portals. I can mess with these portals because I live on another realm. And he comes through, or he gets exiled from his dad, who hates him, and sets up shop in the Elven Nation. And this is Treerazer, who's basically a demon that's all about. It's on the nose, because I made the name up when I was like probably 15 or something like that. It's like Treerazer, yeah. Not the shaving trees, but like the burning them down kind of raise, R-A-Z.
Like raised to the ground.
Yeah, raised to the ground.
Okay.
And so Treerazer is this basically anti-elf, forest-destroying, fungus-inhabiting monster. And he moves in and he corrupts the land. The elves come back and are like, oh no, and they kick him out. And so now there's sort of this element of the elven nation of Kyonin is repopulated by all the elves, except this swath down to the south, up against the mountains, where it's this nasty, swampy, overgrown place called Tanglebriar, which the elves have never been able to reclaim, and it's still under Treerazer's control. So that sets up the elves in Golarion with a different sort of shtick than you see like in Lord of the Rings or in a lot of the D&D settings or in wherever else you see elves show up, because elves are everywhere. That elves are basically chaotic good, and demons are chaotic evil, but the two of them are basically clashing.
I gotcha.
So elves versus demons.
So elves versus demons, it goes way back.
Oh yeah.
And it just so right now I've got an image of a portal.
Yeah. That's one of the elements with elves doing their thing is in Golarion is they've got this network called the Iodora network, and it's these portals of freestanding portals that they use to like zip all over the place. And that one that you just showed was Lotus Gate.
Okay.
That's one of the main portals that goes right thunk into the middle of their capital city, and it's kind of a hub that goes all over the place.
So it's like a major part of the
that illustration there. I think is the first time we've shown that anywhere.
This is the first time.
Yeah, that's
really
that is an illustration from the first volume of Age of Ashes.
Oh, okay.
And as we talked about previously in Age of Ashes, one of the things that happens, I don't know if we mentioned this, but here we go.
Well, here we go.
One of the elements in Age of Ashes is that the player characters discover this ancient ring of elf gates, of Iodora.
Oh, okay.
And that sort of forms a hub of their explorations. They start going through all of these different elf gates to go to their new adventure locations.
So this gets relevant. Hang with me for a second.
Yes.
You've seen Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the time when invariably there's a chase scene?
Yeah, and they're running.
And they go like door to door and they're going across the hallway. Is it that sort of like where they just cross paths and you can go pretty much anywhere with this connected network of portals?
You could. The network of portals here is old and broken, and part of the adventure path is like repairing it and rediscovering where all these different things go. It's also one that's kind of been set off from the rest of the Elf Gate network. That one we showed, this is Lotus Gate again. This one, as you can see, is broken.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. It got maybe somebody's had really bad halitosis and maybe maybe some fire came out. Like, well, I don't know what creatures would breathe fire.
It's been destroyed in some way.
In some way, it's been destroyed. But the other portals.
Saying, suddenly spoiler.
Yeah, suddenly spoiler. So I'm trying to be cagey. But anyway, so yeah, that's an element that plays deeply into Age of Ashes is this Elf Gate Iodara network, which is why I wanted to open with that one. But yeah, so the elves kind of have this thing where they zip all over the place, and they kind of, in the same way like the internet made the world smaller. You can talk with people from New York or Taiwan or anywhere, and it's like they're right there in your house. Like right now, we're talking to everybody here, and it makes the world smaller. The same thing happens with the Elfgate thing. If it takes one step to go from Kyonin to Verisia, or from Kyonin to Taldor, or from Taldor to Tiancha, or wherever, that makes everything smaller and makes the world more compact. And so that's an element that I think the elves are trying to bring to Golarion, to make Golarion a better place, because everyone is your neighbor.
So they're wanting to share this.
Yeah.
They're like, everybody check this out.
That's another thing too about elves in Golarion that has been really hard for us to get across, because there's been Tolkien is such a huge monolithic theme in fantasy. And as a result, the way elves act and dwarves act is such a intrinsic part of, like in D&D and Pathfinder even. I want elves in Golarion to be different. I want them to feel chaotic neutral, or chaotic good, not sort of like this super traditional. They're xenophobic. They don't want anybody into their house. They're like, no, we are elves and you are not elves. And that never felt good to me. That felt at best neutral. And so with chaotic good, the ideal chaotic good alignment type action that you're going to do is you're like just easygoing. You're a hippie. Hippies to me feel chaotic good. They like don't really care about the laws. They just want everybody to be happy, and who cares what you're doing as long as you're not hurting anybody. And tie-dye is really pretty, and like, let's live in the woods but still have internet. And so that really is what an elf is to me. Is like, it's just something. I mean, I wouldn't mind living in the woods with internet access. That sounds awesome.
Seems like it would be pretty good.
Yeah.
And besides that, they're that's like it's their home. Like they're used to living in the woods, and so they're kind of like check out. This is what's so cool about it. You should check.
That's another thing too that we did with elves that I'm really excited about too. Is the idea that elves live for so long that if an elf lives in one area for centuries, it'll start changing subtly to match that region that it's living in. So that's why elves in the forest are like, they're tall and willowy and thin, whereas elves that you might see living up in the Arctic regions, they get all kind of bleached white because of all the snow and so forth.
So then let me ask you what
the next picture.
This one is then.
That's also a debut. That I think I snuck in here from the core rulebook.
Oh, no way. This is from the CRB, the Pathfinder
the second edition, yeah.
Well, look at it. Here. Hang on a second. James has been on the show a lot, right?
I'm getting stroppy in my like, kind of like, I want to show stuff.
At the end of the last show, we were talking about an image that we're getting to.
Oh, it's raining out there.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. It is pouring outside.
In Seattle?
That's not static. I'm sorry. I hope it's not annoying. But we were talking about this image we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I said, I am all for having a preview and like a nice little spoiler on the show, because it's a fun little thing for the finders out there. You guys can see some cool stuff. But then here you are.
Yeah, that's just the core rulebook is just filled with just the art in there. Oh man, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And this is just basically an illustration of an elf gate doing its thing. You know, opening a portal somewhere in the elven lands of Kyonin, and it's
gorgeous,
doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show it off.
It's really nice. And so let me go back to here. So then I think the next images that we're going to get into are the spoilery things.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know what order you got them in.
Well, I put them in I don't remember they're in the order you gave them to me. So
I know they're already in the weird order.
Are they?
Maybe.
They're numbered.
Okay.
I hope they were numbered.
It's working. We planned this all out in excruciating detail. We are professionals.
Yes, the tightest ship in Twitch.
Yeah,
we run it.
Yeah.
There's numbers on them, so that's the order that I have them.
All
in.
right. Well,
but it finishes off. You know.
Okay. Well, what's the next one?
So, do you want to just jump in and see the image?
Yeah.
All right. It is.
Oh yeah. That's old.
That's old.
Yeah,
okay,
that's actually, I think, the oldest image in here. That is from Pathfinder 17. Second Darkness Adventure Path. This is basically a shot of the Witch Bowl, which is Treerazer's fortress. It's this gnarly, crazy tree in the middle of like the swampland at the edge of the mountains and all of that. And in the original adventure I wrote way back in the day for my homebrew campaign, it's pretty awesome because Treerazer lives in basically a giant golem that he walks around and stomps out cities and all of that. And that was a little bit goofy, I felt. Cool, but goofy.
It's pretty cool.
But I didn't want to get rid of it entirely. So instead, the version of Treerazer that is official in Golarion lives in the Witch Bowl, which is that giant tree that you saw. And that thing can get up and walk around and crush cities. So
that's his vehicle.
That's his house and his vehicle. This is RV.
Okay. And I assume that there's a noise associated, like you can hear his tree coming. Or something like that.
Yeah. If Godzilla were a lumberjack, it would be the sound of the trees falling.
Oh, I think that's very true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Godzilla.
All right. So there's. All right. So before we get into the Treerazer images.
Yeah.
Which, spoilers. That's what we've got.
Yep.
Right. That we're building up to that.
Yeah.
Obviously. Let's. What do you want to say about Treerazer as we're getting into these first images?
He's kind of one of the first big bad guys that I ever invented for my homebrew, and it's like I've always been a fan of dinosaurs, and I was Demogorgon was a big deal for me because he had the most hit points in the first monster manual, and there was a little element talking about how he ruled this he was associated with dinosaurs. I was like, oh, dinosaurs and demons can go together. Oh, and I was looking at the art, and he's like a two-headed baboon with tentacles and a tail and bird legs, and I was like, he doesn't look like a dinosaur. So Treerazer is really my attempt to fix that, to make a demon that looks like a dinosaur, gave him his name Treerazer, which is like kind of a superhero name, supervillain name.
Supervillain, yeah.
Whereas a lot of demon lords you'll see in the book Vile Darkness or the Book of the Damned or whatever kind of demon fantasy book, they have like either names drawn from mythology like Arushkagal or Nocticula or something like that. Or they'll have just brand new weird names like Mazmez or Zavgevazab or just mouth twisting nonsense words. Once in a while, though, I think it's kind of fun to come up with just portmanteau names like Treerazer. Night Ripper's another one that is drawn from my campaign setting. From it's kind of the same era, was like 2 words make 1 demon.
Right. I like it. It. Let's look at that.
So yeah, that's also old. That's an early picture of Treerazer kind of doing his thing, eating, killing elves, and they're trying to fight him with like their magic, and he's like, "Wah!" He has this big axe because, of course, he's anti-forest, so you would use your acidic axe to chop down trees, and
right.
and so yeah, it was super satisfying for me to have in my head like this idea of like what Treerazer was and who he is, and then get people like Ben Wooten to illustrate him. Ben Wooten, of course, is one of the illustrators we use a lot.
Yeah,
he did a lot of work on Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's King Kong, stuff like that.
Right, Steve. Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate that. It's super nice of you.
So just getting like people like Wayne and Ben and Eva Woodman and others to illustrate stuff like that is like one of my favorite perks of this job.
That's got to be amazing when you can think of an animal, like a creature, a monster, whatever, and then these amazing artists are like, we got this, and they just churn out this amazing art where you're just like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, right?
Yeah,
it's got to feel good.
It's pretty good.
Does Treerazer chop down trees just to get back at elves, or is there another reason why Treerazer does not want trees around?
Well, he's got this ability to with his axe, if he hits this tree, he can basically turn it to like sludge and heal like 150 points of damage at one shot.
Oh, I see.
So that's pretty nice.
All right.
He's also really associated with like just corruption and pollution. He's also one of the things with demons in Golarion is that they embody some sort of like sin or just awfulness. And in Treerazer's case, he's kind of this demon associated with just the fungus that grows where you don't want it to grow, and just corruption and like black mold or like cordyceps fungus growing into ants and turning them into zombies, or like just this gnarly, just gross pollution pouring into like a beautiful nature setting and all that. That also plays into how he's like anti-elf, because elves are all about nature and Treerazer is all about like just
just none of that.
Yeah.
And so then just by nature, what he spreads is what will drive the elves away, and so that's where the main push comes.
Yeah, and he's kind of also set up, along with the Whispering Tyrant and a couple others, he's sort of set up as like a big bad guy of Golarion. We put him into, we statted him up, I think, the first time in Second Darkness in the Bestiary. And then, if I remember correctly, we graduated him into the Inner Sea World Guide, the main campaign setting for First Edition. And we had a small bestiary in the back with creatures like the Kalakang and the Sharluka and a couple other creatures. And Treerazer was put in there as kind of like, here's our iconic big bad guy, one of the bosses, if you will, of the setting. And sort of in the same way like that you see the Tarrasque showing up in D&D or in First Edition Pathfinder in the Bestiary. The Tarrasque is the toughest monster in the book. And so for Pathfinder Second Edition, we decided to swap that out. And I think that's the next piece of art.
Yes. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's take a look at
that's Treerazer in his role as the badassest monster in Pathfinder Second Edition's Bestiary.
And now walk me through this a little bit. That's obviously the axe.
Yeah, that's his axe, which is black axe.
Disease.
Yeah, it's spreading all, he's got like Dutch elm disease and whatever he's doing.
It is just an amazing piece of art. It's crazy cool.
Good times.
And that is the biggest creature that you're going to find in there.
It's not the biggest creature. It's the most powerful creature in Bestiary 2. There's bigger creatures in Bestiary 2 that you can probably guess, because we have a nation called the Land of the Linnorm Kings.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, so Pharaoh's is saying totally metal. Like when I see that thing, I think of a guitar riff.
Oh, yeah.
And like smoke blowing across a hill, and that thing climbs
He's
up.
named Treerazer.
Yeah, totally.
He's not going to be like... He's not a friendly guy. He's not like the type of guy who's like, oh, Mr. Treerazer's here. You're not going to say, like, oh, maybe this guy's got some cookies for me. No, you're like, oh, geez, somebody named Treerazer. Right. I'm not a tree, but I have stood next to them before.
Right.
Anyway.
So let me ask you this, because now we're getting some rules questions going on.
Yeah.
How much can we talk about with that?
I don't know. What kind of questions we got?
The CR. Let's see.
It's the highest in the book.
Okay. What level?
Highest in the book.
And this is a good one. When do we get a mini for it? That would be awesome. Mini.
See, so that's another thing too. When you do minis, you get like this guy here, the Shamazian demon. That's another really cool thing, is like making something up in your head and then seeing art become art, and then seeing it become a mini.
Yeah.
There's size categories of monsters that just are really hard to make into minis, and huge is one of those, because when you get gargantuan, they're big enough that you can do like a big deal and sell them on their own, and they're like, $50 for Cthulhu or whatever.
Right.
When they're large, you can throw them into like a big randomized mini set like we do with WizKids. Huge is like in this weird sort of middle ground where it's hard to get those out, and the opportunities to get miniatures of these characters in is so few and far between that when it does happen, it's like, obviously we need a dragon, so we do dragons a lot. They're just not, and giants, other things like that. And Treerazer has been, I think, on the list to become a miniature, at least in my headcanon.
Right.
Part of getting him into the bestiary as the highest CR monster in there is to try to get him more front and center to build his brand, if you will. It's something that caused problems in first edition because we couldn't do really a mini of the Tarrasque because it's so big. Is it really still a mini if it's this tall? I mean, that would be so cool.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
But I mean, I don't know how many people would spend $500 for a Tarrasque mini that they'll never use because
it becomes almost a collectible statue at that point.
Where Treerazer is huge, so could be in theory. I would love to have a mini of him someday.
That would be great, and that would be a huge mini right there. That would be because there's no scale in the image, and so
no, he is. There was a scale in the previous image, of course. But of course, he's also based on a dinosaur, and best dinosaur is Tyrannosaurus, of course. So he's about on the tall edge of Tyrannosaurus age, 21 feet tall, maybe 22.
All right, so he's good size.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's no slouch.
Yeah, no.
You would say. And then before we wrap up this first part, I have one more. I guess I'm going to call it a preview image. I mean, it's
a what's the other review? So
it's the de-evolution of.
So the thing with Treerazer is like I said, I invented them back in 1989, 1990. I was still in high school. And I just loved writing adventures even back then. And I would ape the format of TSR's adventures, and make covers for them and tape them to manila envelopes, and then have like inside there, like have stapled maps on the inside, and then the stapled up text of the adventures and all of that.
Yeah.
And so this one I wrote was called The Secret of Deathstalk Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one that featured Treerazer the bad guy, who got into his big robot house and came over and stomped down your town of Purg. And they're like, oh no, we got to go into the forest and fight Treerazer. And Treerazer's got this demon, Lucarazzle, working for him. There's a big orange spiny demon who could spin around like the Tasmanian devil and just cut things up. He's got this general named Grotolf, who's like a kind of a beardo, potbelly fighter type guy that's like, I'm just going to run the army from here in my chair. And then he's got his high priestess is Alevra, a drow, who I also ended up putting into Second Darkness as the main bad villain for that one. So two of the bad guys in this adventure that I wrote way back in 1989 or so have ended up being major forces in Golarion. And
that's awesome.
And so I found the cover.
So this is the first appearance?
No, this is not the first appearance. I put this on the blog in Paizo way back when, and that's where I got this image.
This is the first. This would be the first publication.
Oh no, this is the first time Treerazer ever got illustrated by me.
Go. Yeah. So let's
also a lever too. So that's not me.
At
there we go. Look at the glory.
So a little bit smaller.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic looking brown cloak. That was a cloak of protection +5.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Oh yeah.
What level would this Treerazer
Well, it was for 7 to 11.
7 to 11.
Yep. So Treerazer was, if I remember correctly, he was probably, they didn't really have monster levels back in those days, but he was a little tough. Yeah.
I think that this...
And then there's a Levra in the front, casting some sort of spell, and Potbelly Grotolf in the back with his beard, and then Lucarazzle. Grotolf is probably never going to show up. I'm not a big fan. He's just a dude. He's just a meh. Lucarazzle might show up though. I mean, the idea of like this big kind of orange fiery demon with the spine sticking out and all over, and when he gets up to you, just
yeah, all over the place.
Yeah,
I like it's like a Cather wheel, I think is what they call
yeah, or so for those of you who played Dark Souls, those skeletons on those spiky wheels down in the catacombs that are rolling around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that type of tactic is bad news. I don't care how powerful or how long you've been playing the game. You take care.
So then let me ask you this.
Yep.
Is that available anywhere? Can somebody buy a back issue of that?
Of that thing that I...
Of this right here?
Of that?
Yeah.
Nope.
No?
I still have it. I still have that, and this. I also, after this, wrote 6 parts of a 7-part adventure path that I never finished.
Okay.
But I've got all those too.
Will we ever learn the secret?
Of death? The secret, yeah, I can tell you right now.
Okay.
The secret is that it's a robot and it stops around.
Spoilers. I guess we're not playing it now.
Yeah, the plot was like this giant golem came to your house or your city and stomped it and then went back into the woods, and you had to follow it to the woods, and you get to the end of this, because it's a big robot type thing. It leaves a path. Right. So you follow this path through the forest that the elves used to live in, and then you get to this clearing, a swampy clearing in the middle, Death Slough. I think it was called Death Slough. It wasn't called Tanglebriar at that point. And there's the path leads right up to this big, tall, black tower. And you're like, where's the giant? Huh. Well, let's look inside this tower. And so you go up the tower. It's got 10 levels. And you get to the top, and you're fighting Treerazer. And he pushes this button, and the whole thing turns into this robot. And you're like, I never predicted that. And then you have to fight the Colossus. And
that sounds amazing.
It had, I think, 800 hit points, which was maybe a little much for 11th level characters. But when I ran it in college, they killed it. Oh, other side note, it was during this adventure when I was running it in college in 1991 that one of the players, my friend Steve Enemark, realized that he wanted to buy a necklace that would help him not get poisoned by all of this nasty stuff in the air in this adventure. And so he was like, I want to go buy one of these necklace of adaptation. And I was like, well, you need to go to the temple of Desna. She's the goddess of outer space. And so he's like, all right, I go there. And he goes there and he like hits it off with the priestess, and they eventually fall in love and get married and all of that. And anyway, so that's where Desna comes from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do we ever, I mean, at something like, because it's been brought the chat, Ms. Roy is saying in the chat, a PaizoCon encounter to run, maybe. Because you still have it. You said
I do still have it. It's big. It's got 100 rooms in that tower. It's not something you can run in a simple encounter. And
I don't think I picked up on that.
It's
how giant that was.
It's not small.
Okay,
so it's not something I could run at PaizoCon roll. I mean, I could truncate it, of course.
Gen
but
Con. We'll do it at Gen Con.
I don't go Gen Con anymore.
Damn it! All right, pal. Let me do this.
But that said, Adventure Path with Treerazer as the main bad guy is something that is very, very possible to happen at some point.
That would be pretty cool. That would be really cool. Let's do this. Do you have anything else we need to add for Treerazer before we start doing questions?
No.
Alrighty then. I'm going to wrap up this part, and then we'll get to some Q&A with the finders in the chat. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you learned a lot about Treerazer, and I want to extend a special thanks to James for bringing all of these exclusive images that we haven't seen yet. And so it always helps brighten the day when I get to show images for the first time. I hope you learned a lot about Treerazer. If you had an encounter or played a game that included Treerazer, talk about it down in the comments. I'll make sure James sees them, and we'll laugh and high five over the best ones. If you liked the video, give it a like and consider subscribing to Paizo's YouTube channel. It helps us a lot. And in the meantime, for Paizo and for James Jacobs over here, and for me, I'm your old buddy Dan. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.